Wealth isn't just about money. It's about who thinks, acts, and decides differently. While some waste their days complaining about life, others are out there building empires. Florence Scovel Shinn nailed it. Your words shape the world around you. And the Bible backs it up. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Today, you're about to uncover 10 raw, game-changing differences between the rich and the poor. Some will sting, others will light a fire under you. Buckle up, because this video might just be the wake-up call you've been needing. Chapter 1. Foresight versus financial myopia. The rich think years ahead, the poor only until Friday. Have you ever noticed how the poor live like the world's gonna end next weekend? The money that comes in today is already spoken for. Paying off a late bill, grabbing fast food on Friday, maybe even splurging on a new phone to feel good. They're stuck putting out fires, always chasing the next quick fix. The rich, though, they see the long game. They don't spend for today, they invest for a decade down the road. The difference is night and day. One's worried about the next party, the other's planning for the next generation. The Bible already spoke about this with the wisdom of Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. And that's exactly what happens. Those who lack vision for the future die on the shores of mediocrity. Florence Scovel Shinn reminded us, everything a man imagines already exists in the invisible world and sooner or later manifests itself in his life. The rich understand this. They imagine big, build big, and reap big. The poor, unfortunately, imagine small and receive exactly the same amount. And here's the sarcasm of life. Many still believe that millionaires were lucky. Seriously? Luck is surviving on ramen noodles and generic soda every day. Building wealth requires vision, knowing how to forego immediate pleasure for a promising future. While the poor complain that the market is unfair, the rich study how it works. While one wonders, how much will this cost? The other asks, how much will this earn me? A clear example, Joseph in Egypt. He interpreted Pharaoh's dream and knew that 7 years of plenty would come, followed by 7 years of famine. What did he do? He saved, invested, and managed. The result? When the famine arrived, everyone became his hostage. This is pure foresight. Now, if Joseph had the mindset of the modern poor, he would have roasted all the wheat at the first harvest. And during the crisis, crying on TikTok. The big question is, where are you focusing? On immediate pleasure or on a future that could change your life? The poor live on excuses. Oh, I didn't have the opportunity. Oh, I don't have the talent. The rich live on decisions. Florence said, there is nothing so small or so great that imagination cannot bring to light. And it is precisely imagination that separates the millionaire from the indebted. So, my friend, if you're still only thinking about Friday, congratulations. You've already decided the size of your life. But if you want to be part of the visionary team, you need to learn to see beyond the electricity bill and credit card statement. It's about seeing business, investments, knowledge, and purpose where others only see problems. Tell me in the comments, are you living life like Joseph preparing for the harvest, or like someone who can't see beyond the next barbecue? And of course, if this chapter has already touched you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because in the next ones I'll show you other truths that many people prefer not to hear. Chapter 2. Continuing education versus mental laziness. Want to know one of the biggest secrets of the rich? They never stop learning. Meanwhile, most poor people view studying as a punishment. It's as if, after graduation, or even after that, life were an amusement park where you just have to get by. The problem is that those who get by without knowledge almost always get into trouble. The rich know that the world changes, and those who don't learn get left behind. The poor, on the other hand, pride themselves on saying, I already know enough. And that's where life backfires. Because the truth is harsh. Those who stop learning begin to die. Florence Scovel Shinn said, the man who lacks imagination is dead to life. And where does imagination originate? In knowledge absorbed, tested, and transformed into ideas. The Bible also emphasizes this. Proverbs 18:15. The heart of the wise acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Note: seek, search, persist. Have you noticed that millionaires are always at conferences, buying books, paying for expensive mentoring? Meanwhile, the poor think that online courses are scams. And of course, they prefer to spend money on streaming to binge-watch series, because after all, rest is important. But then they don't understand why the budget never adds up. Want a sarcastic comparison? The rich pay $500 for a course that can multiply into business. The poor pay the same $500 for a new cell phone to have the best camera. In the end, one grows and the other only takes pictures of their own stagnation. That's it. Choosing priorities. And look how interesting. Jesus as a boy was already in the temple, learning, listening, and asking questions, Luke 2:46. If even he dedicated time to learning, who are we to think we already know everything? The poor reject knowledge because it requires work. The rich embrace effort because they know that each new idea can bear fruit. But here's an uncomfortable truth. Studying isn't just about accumulating information, it's about applying it. Knowledge that doesn't generate action becomes mental clutter. How many people do you know who read books, attend lectures, and stay in the same place? The rich turn learning into strategy. The poor collect motivational quotes and believe that alone will change their lives. Florence also said, "There is no such thing as small or great. There is only what you accept with your mind. Those who accept mental laziness reap mediocrity. Those who accept continuous learning build wealth." And so I ask you, are you feeding your mind or starving it intellectually? Because the math is simple. Those who don't study pay dearly for those who did. Write in the comments, what was the last thing you learned and truly applied in your life? I want to see if you're on the team that evolves or the team that just watches life pass by. And if this chapter has already tickled your ego, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because in the next one I'll show you why faith without action is just a fancy excuse. Chapter 3: Courage to Act versus Pious Excuses. Here's one of the most glaring differences between the rich and the poor. The rich act, the poor come up with beautiful excuses. And often, holy ones. It's impressive how some people manage to transform their own laziness into spirituality. God willing, one day I'll prosper. But curiously, they never lift a finger to make that day come. Let's get straight to the point. Courage is the currency of millionaires. They know they'll never be sure before taking the first step. While the poor wait for all the perfect conditions, the rich create conditions along the way. Want to see the irony? The poor say, "I'm not going to invest because it's risky." The rich think, "If I don't invest, I'm already losing." Result: one remains stagnant, the other increases their wealth. Florence Scovel Shinn accurately points this out. Action is a great faith builder. Those who launch out with courage see doors open. But instead, many prefer the comfort of excuses. Some even sound pious. "Oh, God is in control, I just hope in Him." Of course He is, but even the disciples had to row against the storm. God guides the boat, but you have to row. The Bible is clear. James 2:17. Faith without works is dead. Translated into sarcastic English, believing without action is like buying a treadmill and using it as a coat rack. You fool yourself into thinking you're on the right path, but in the end, nothing changes. Think of Abraham. He heard God's voice and left his homeland for the unknown. No map, no guarantees, no plan B. It was pure courage. Now, compare that to the typical mentally poor. "Oh, I'll only start when I'm sure." But certainty never comes before action. It comes after, when you look back and realize you survived. The rich understand this. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite fear. The poor, on the other hand, transform fear into a philosophical justification. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that it's not the right time. In other words, pure cowardice with a spiritual veneer. You know what's even sadder? This pious excuse is taught from generation to generation. Parents tell their children, "Don't risk it, it's dangerous." better to stay quiet. But this wisdom is poison in disguise. It's what perpetuates stagnation. Want a reality check? While you're praying for a job, someone else is praying for the courage to start their own business. Guess who will prosper faster? God doesn't make excuses, He gives opportunities. But those with courage take them. Those who prefer lazy piety let them pass. Florence said, "Fear is just faith inverted, faith in evil instead of good." In other words, every time you hesitate, you're just saying, "I believe more in defeat than in victory." Strong, huh? But necessary. Now tell me, how many excuses have you been using to justify your lack of action? And worse, how many times have you disguised this cowardice as waiting on God? Leave a comment. What's the most creative excuse you've ever used for not taking action? And if this chapter resonated with you, leave a like and subscribe, because in the next one I'll reveal the stark difference between strategic generosity and pointless almsgiving. Chapter 4. Networking versus convenient solitude. The rich surround themselves with giants, the poor with excuses. Here's a painful truth. Poor people love to say they're fine on their own, that they don't need anyone, that they're self-sufficient. It even sounds nice, almost philosophical. But in practice, it's a cheap excuse for not putting themselves out there, not learning and not growing. Meanwhile, the rich surround themselves with giants, build alliances, form partnerships. They understand something the poor haven't yet. No one becomes a millionaire under a rock. Let's put this on the table. The rich know that relationships are the most valuable currency. They cultivate connections, ask for advice, seek mentors. They're not afraid to appear small in front of someone greater, because they know that's how you grow. As for the poor, they get offended. They say, "I'm not going to ask anyone for help." In other words, pride mixed with insecurity. The result, convenient loneliness, but guaranteed poverty. The Bible is straightforward. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. In other words, you only sharpen your mind when you connect with those sharper than you. But the poor mentality prefers the comfort of being surrounded by peers, and then everyone complains along, justifying mediocrity as if it were a virtue. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Nothing happens in isolation. Every achievement is born from a word, an exchange, an encounter." But, curiously, those who are mentally bankrupt think they can solve it alone. It's the famous lone wolf myth. But even a wolf needs a pack to survive. Want a practical example? The rich pay dearly to be in rooms where they aren't the smartest. The poor think it's a waste. The rich invest in networking, events, and training. The poor prefer to spend on things that give them immediate status but zero future return. And then they complain, "Nobody gives me opportunities." But of course, nobody gives opportunities to those who don't show up anywhere. Here comes a touch of sarcasm. While the poor think everyone around them is jealous and therefore isolates themselves, the rich understand that envy will always exist, but they still connect because they know the benefits outweigh the risks. After all, even Judas was among the disciples, and that didn't stop Jesus from fulfilling his mission. And here's the secret. When you connect, you broaden your vision. When you're alone, you limit yourself to what you already know, and honestly, if what you know so far hasn't made you rich, maybe it's time to listen to someone different. Tough? Yes. Necessary? Very much so. The rich build networks, the poor build walls. One attracts opportunities, the other hides behind them. Chapter 5. Iron discipline versus chronic impulsivity. Self-control today, reward tomorrow. Let's be serious. If there's a glaring difference between rich and poor, it's here. The rich understand that self-control is power, while the poor think discipline is prison. Result? The rich build castles, the poor collect bills. It's that simple. Impulsiveness is practically an Olympic sport for those who aren't rich. Got $100? It's already pizza, beer, and installments on your credit card. The problem isn't the amount itself, but the mindset. Immediate pleasure is worth more than any future. The rich, however, they have something that seems outmoded. Patience. They know how to wait. They know how to plant. They know how to control themselves. They understand the biblical principle. To everything there is a season. Ecclesiastes 3:1. The poor know this verse, but prefer to adapt it. To everything there is a season, except the new iPhone, which I need now. Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Those who know how to wait have already won half the battle." But the problem is that waiting requires faith. And faith is directly linked to discipline. It's saying no today to say a bigger yes tomorrow. It's refusing fast food to invest in a banquet meal. It's holding back the impulse to spend to have the freedom to multiply. And here comes the sarcasm. Poor people love to repeat, "Life is short, we have to enjoy it." But this enjoying boils down to spending everything without thinking. Life truly is short, but it can also be miserable if you don't have the discipline to build something that lasts. The rich aren't miserly. They just learned that immediate pleasures cost too much when they rob you of your future. Want to see the difference in your daily life? The rich wake up early, organize their routine, and maintain habits that seem boring. They understand that consistency is more powerful than inspiration. The poor? They wait to have the will to act. But life doesn't reward those with will, but rather those with discipline. It's like going to the gym. Those who rely solely on motivation go for 3 days and then disappear. Those who understand discipline go even without wanting to and reap the rewards. This is also reflected in spiritual practice. The rich mentally discipline their thoughts. They don't allow themselves to constantly meditate on scarcity, because they know that each thought is a seed. The poor, on the other hand, allow themselves to be carried away by every piece of bad news, every piece of gossip, every fear. The result? A disorganized mind that generates an equally disorganized life. The Bible makes it clear, a man without self-control is like a city without walls. Proverbs 25-28. In other words, without discipline, you are vulnerable to any attack. The rich have built strong internal walls, habits, focus, vision. The poor leave the doors open to all kinds of distractions. And this is where it becomes clear. Wealth isn't just about money, it's about attitude. Discipline is telling yourself, I control my desires, they don't control me. And this phrase is the turning point. The rich understand that every choice of self-control is an invisible investment that, sooner or later, turns into a bountiful harvest. In the end, it all comes down to this. The rich control their impulses and wait for the right moment. The poor live dominated by instantaneous desires. One plants today and reaps a multiplier tomorrow. The other harvests today and tomorrow discovers there's nothing left in the field. Chapter 6. Smart work versus purposeless sweat. Poor people confuse effort with results. Here's another exposed wound. The poor believe that, the more I sweat, the more I'll prosper. And that's precisely where the error lies. Wealth doesn't come from sweat itself, but from the right direction of effort. The rich work with strategy, intelligence, and vision. The poor work until they're exhausted but without purpose. In the end, the result is obvious. Exhaustion without prosperity. It's like the classic phrase, there's no point in running in the wrong direction. But the poor do exactly that. They work overtime in jobs they hate, waste energy on tasks that don't multiply, and still call it an honest life. It's not about honesty. It's about purpose. The rich man understood what Jesus said. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world, yet forfeits his soul? Matthew 16:26. In other words, effort without wisdom is useless. Florence Scovel Shinn pointed out that the mind is the true factory of wealth. Physical labor only manifests what the mind has already designed. The poor believe that wealth is the result of hours of sweat. The rich understand that wealth is the result of smart decisions. See the irony? A bricklayer can work 14 hours a day and remain poor. A programmer, on the other hand, can work 4 hours with strategy and multiply earnings. What separates them from the other is not just their profession, but their mindset about effort. The former believes that sweat pays the bills. The latter knows that ideas pay fortunes. Want another example? The poor love to boast. I've worked my whole life, never missed a day. But they remain in debt. The rich, on the other hand, celebrate results. I learned to automate, delegate, and invest. See the difference? One collects hours, the other collects rewards. The Bible is full of examples of intelligent work. Joseph, in Egypt, didn't become rich because he carried more sacks of wheat than the others. He reached the top because he knew how to interpret dreams and manage resources. He worked his mind, not his muscles. Samson, the strongest man, ended up defeated because he lacked wisdom. Strength without purpose is wasted. And here comes the sarcasm. The poor are always repeating, God helps the early bird. Partial truth. God doesn't just help the early bird. He helps those with vision. Waking up early to miss the target is just waking up early to waste energy. The rich know how to optimize. They understand the value of focus. They do less, but they do what really matters. They know that working hard without strategy is like rowing in circles. You get tired, but you stay in the same place. The poor, however, idolize suffering. They seem to believe that the more exhausted they are, the more dignified they become. They fail to realize that true dignity is living with purpose, not fatigue. And what does spirituality show? That each person reaps what they sow. The rich sow focus, purpose, and wisdom. The poor sow effort without direction. When the harvest comes, the difference is stark. The moral is simple. Intelligent work liberates, purposeless sweat enslaves. The rich have learned to align effort with vision. The poor still confuse movement with progress. One builds wealth, the other merely expends energy until their last breath. Chapter 7. Resilience versus giving up easily. The difference is getting up more often than you fall down. Here's a raw, real truth that stings. Poor folks give up way too easily. They trip once and call it game over. Rich people? They crash and burn 10 times, yet somehow find the grit to get back up on the 11th. That's the brutal difference. Wealth demands resilience, not fragility. Florence Scovel Shinn put it like this: failure can be turned into success when guided by faith. For her, falling wasn't the end, it was just part of the spiritual grind to victory. But the poor? They see every stumble as a death sentence. The rich? They see falls as stepping stones. And here's where it gets a bit snarky. Poor people love to play the victim card. I tried selling online once, it flopped, so that whole gig's a scam. It's almost laughable, like anyone's building an empire on their first swing. The rich, though? They get that screwing up is just part of the training montage. They fall, dust off, recalibrate, and keep charging forward. The Bible lays it out plain and simple. Proverbs 24-16 says, "For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again." It doesn't say the righteous never fall. It says they always get back up. And that's the exact mindset that splits millionaires from the broke. Getting up more times than you go down. Take Joseph in Egypt. Betrayed, sold into slavery, locked up for no reason. Most folks would have quit at the first gut punch. But Joseph? He stayed tough. Every fall brought him closer to the throne. The payoff? He ended up running Egypt. Point is, resilience pays dividends that giving up never will. Florence Scovel Shinn hammered this too. Your words shape your reality. The poor say, I can't do it, it's not for me. The rich declare, it's just a matter of time, I'll make it happen. That verbal shift reveals a spiritual one. While the poor drown in despair, the rich plant new seeds with their words, trusting the harvest is coming. Now, let's get down to everyday life. A poor person loses their job and freaks out. This is the end of the road. A rich person loses their job and sees a door swinging open. Time to start my own thing. One shuts down, the other opens up. One quits, the other reinvents. Here's where it gets even more ironic. Poor folks cry, "God's not helping me." But they forget that even Jesus stumbled carrying his cross to Calvary, and he got back up. Resilience is divine. Giving up? That's just human. Florence would sum it up crystal clear. Faith is believing when everything screams the opposite. The rich carry that resilient faith. The poor, sadly, trade faith for whining. At the end of the day, wealth isn't just about killer ideas. It's about enduring the falls and pushing forward until the results show up. The rich know that failing isn't failure. Quitting is. The difference between them and the poor? It's the willingness to get up one more time than they fall. Resilience builds millionaires. Giving up? That just leaves you watching someone else's wealth from the sidelines. Chapter 8. Real investment versus appearance consumption. Some buy assets, others just selfies. Picture this classic scene. A poor guy struts out of a store with a $300 sneaker bag, snaps a selfie, and posts. Victory achieved. The rich guy? He's buying stock in the company that made those sneakers and doesn't even bother posting about it. That's the brutal difference. Some live to flex their spending, others live to plant investments. Florence Scovel Shinn would say, "True abundance isn't about showing off, it's the fruit of wisdom." The Bible backs her up. Proverbs 21:20 puts it like this: "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." In plain English, the rich stack assets, while the poor blow everything on pointless purchases. Want another sarcastic twist? Poor folks love to say, "Money's for enjoying, not saving." But, funny enough, all they ever enjoy is a pile of debt. Meanwhile, the rich know every dollar is a soldier fighting for them in the battlefield of compound interest. The poor spend to look big, the rich invest to grow big. Here's a real-world example. While a poor person's signing up for 24-month payments on the latest iPhone, a rich person's buying shares in Apple itself. Guess who's grinning 5 years from now? Spoiler, it's not the one with the shiny new phone. And here's a straight-up challenge for you watching this. Are you blowing cash on the car of the year to impress neighbors who don't even care about you? Or are you investing in something that'll secure your family's financial freedom down the road? Drop a comment below. You buying assets or just appearances? Florence Scovel Shinn leaned hard into the power of words to shape reality. When you say, "I'm investing in what makes me grow," you're planting seeds for a prosperous future. But when you keep muttering, "I deserve this luxury, even if I can't afford it," you're basically locking yourself in a financial cage. In real life, the rich invest in knowledge, businesses, and assets that pump out cash flow. The poor? They chase short-term status with pricey watches, lavish parties, and clothes that'll be out of style by next season. It's almost comical. The poor try to prove wealth through spending. The rich? They prove it with quiet moves. In the Bible, Jesus dropped the parable of the talents. A master handed coins to his servants. 2 of them invested and multiplied their stash. The third, scared stiff, buried his. What happened? The investors were celebrated. The guy who buried his coin lost even the little he had. That parable was screaming the difference between those who plant for the future and those who squander in the present. So, let's get real. What are you doing today? Are you multiplying your talents or burying them under debt dressed up as instant gratification? Sound off in the comments. I want to know how many of you are truly ready to switch teams. Florence said wealth comes from a disciplined mind tethered to faith. And nothing screams discipline like skipping the flash today to reap real freedom tomorrow. So, the difference is dead simple. The poor buy stuff to look rich. The rich buy assets to make sure they never have to fake it. Assets buy freedom. Selfies buy likes. The choice is yours. If this message hit you in any way, drop a like now and let me know in the comments. Are you on team assets or team showing off? Your answer might just be the first step to flipping your mindset. Chapter 9. Abundance mentality versus emotional scarcity. Those who believe in little attract little. You know that guy who's always like, "Man, I just want enough to cover my bills and I'm good." Yeah, that's the poster child for a scarcity mindset. Translation: He's already decided he'll never have more than bare survival. It's like he's begging life. Please, just toss me some crumbs. I'm cool with that. And guess what? Life hands him exactly that. Florence Scovel Shinn drove this home hard. Man can only have what he dares to ask for. In other words, ask small, get small, ask big, get big. But the poor, with their fake humility, think it's noble to aim low. Then they turn around and gripe about the system. The Bible couldn't be clearer. In John 10:10, Jesus says, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Yet some folks twist that into life just enough to scrape by on late rent. It's wild how people manage to shrink even God's promises. Here's the practical difference. The poor dream of a $50 raise. The rich envision building a company that creates jobs and income for hundreds of families. One begs the universe for scraps, the other claims whole territories. And no, it's not greed, it's vision. Want a sarcastic example? The poor walk into a restaurant and immediately scan the right side of the menu. The prices. The rich? They check the left, the dishes. One chooses out of fear, the other out of freedom. So here's the $1,000,000 question. When you make decisions, do you look at the price first or the value? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see how many of you are still stuck in that scarcity mindset. Florence put it perfectly. Nothing is too big or too small for God. Those who think in abundance get that asking for prosperity isn't a sin. The real sin is believing the Creator made us to live small, scraping by for crumbs of opportunity. Let's be real. A scarcity mindset is exhausting. Those folks are always scrapping for leftovers, convinced that if someone else gets theirs, there's less for me. The rich get it. The universe isn't some kiddie party plate where every slice taken leaves less for others. They know there's always more to create, more to grow, more to share. Real-world example? Think about entrepreneurs cooking up game-changing solutions. They don't sweat someone's already doing it. They think, there's always room for more value. Meanwhile, the poor mindset shrinks back. I won't even try. Someone else already did it better. So, be honest. Are you asking for little because you think it's more realistic? Or have you figured out that dreaming big is the only way to pull in big results? Drop in the comments whether your mindset's been leaning abundant or scarce lately. Scarcity starts emotional before it ever hits your wallet. It's fear dressed up as caution. It's settling disguised as humility. Abundance, on the flip side, is faith. It's staring at the invisible and declaring, like Florence taught, I don't wait, I'm already receiving. In the end, it's simple. Believe in little, attract little. Believe in much, and you open the floodgates of heaven. The poor pray to scrape through the month. The rich give thanks in advance for the harvest still sprouting. If this hit home, smash that like button and tell me, are you on Team Crumbs or Team Abundance? Chapter 10. Eternal Purpose versus Daily Survival. While some live to serve, others just to get by. There's a stark difference between living with purpose and just getting by. One wakes up with a spark in their eyes, the other with a weight on their shoulders. It's like comparing an architect dreaming up cathedrals to someone patching roof leaks all day. One's chasing legacy, the other's chasing next week's bills. Florence Scovel Shinn nailed it. There's no greater waste of time than running after what isn't your purpose. The tragedy is watching so many people grind just to survive. Survival's the lowest rung of existence. Slaving at a job you hate for money that vanishes into bills. It's the classic hamster wheel. Running, sweating, but going nowhere. The Bible doesn't hold back either. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. It's not lack of effort that kills, it's lack of vision. The poor burn energy just to keep breathing. The rich channel it into creating something meaningful, something that outlives them. Picture this, two guys. One drags himself out of bed at 6 a.m., cursing the alarm, trudging to a job he loathes, stuck in a routine that feels like a life sentence. The other's up at 6 too, not because he has to, but because he wants to. He's working on something that lights him up, something that moves people. The first guy's surviving, the second serving. The first counts down to retirement, the second's living days that already feel eternal. A little sarcasm? You bet. The poor keep bragging about getting by like it's some badge of honor, but let's be real, that just means they haven't found their purpose yet. And trust me, getting by will never cut it for someone born to live abundantly. Florence reminds us, don't ask for small things, ask for direction. When you live to serve something bigger than yourself, you tap into endless energy. But if you're just grinding to pay off that credit card bill, you're bound to burn out sooner or later. So, tell me straight, are you waking up every day just to get by, or have you figured out your purpose? Drop it in the comments, I want to hear it, because your answer might just spark something for someone else still stuck spinning on that hamster wheel. Here's a biblical gut check. Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." That's purpose. Prioritize the eternal, then the temporary follows. The poor flip it. They spend their lives chasing the added stuff and never touch what's essential. Real-world example. Think of the greatest philanthropists and creators in history. They didn't just stack wealth. They put it to work for something bigger. Money was their tool, not their crutch. Meanwhile, the poor treat their paycheck like oxygen. One missed breath, and they're done for. So, what about you? Are you living as a servant of your purpose, or a slave to your circumstances? Drop your answer in the comments, let's see who's ready to flip the switch. The difference is stark. Those who just survive leave faint tracks that fade. Those who live with purpose leave footprints that last forever. At the end of the day, the truth is simple. Wealth isn't some cosmic lottery, it's a cultivated mindset. If you've made it this far, you've already seen that the poor and the rich don't live on different planets, but in different heads. Some survive, others build. Some complain, others plan. Some just get by, others serve. Florence Scovel Shinn summed it up in a line that should be tattooed on the forehead of anyone still whining. Your word is your magic wand. What you say, think, and believe will, sooner or later, become your reality. If you've only reaped scarcity so far, maybe it's because you've only sown excuses. The Bible backs it up. For as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. You can't pray for abundance with a scarcity mindset. You can't dream of wealth while terrified of losing the little you've got. It's like praying for rain but walking around with an umbrella. Ready for some sarcasm? Here we go. While the poor sit around hoping, one day my luck will turn. The rich know luck's a myth. What's real is vision, discipline, and faith. One prays for a Mega Millions jackpot, the other plants seeds that multiply. Guess who's harvesting more? Here's the kicker. Your life doesn't change when your bank account grows. Your bank account grows when your life changes from the inside out. Wealth without purpose is a waste. Poverty without awareness is a cage. But when you align your mind with abundance, your words with power, and your steps with faith, there's no limit to what can unfold. So, to wrap it up, I'm asking you, are you gonna keep just surviving, or are you finally gonna choose to live with purpose? Will you keep whining about bad luck, or will you harness faith and discipline to write a new story? If this series opened your eyes, drop in the comments. My mindset is rich. I want to see who's ready to own this new path loud and proud. The millionaire and the miser live in the same person. What sets them apart is just the mindset you choose to feed every single day. See you in the next video.